Hello and welcome to Talking Tactics. Today I'm with Sam from United People's TV. We're talking Paul Pogba. Was he a waste of money? What's he been doing on the pitch? And the reasons why he probably hasn't been the most effective player we thought he would be for £90 million that was spent on him. Yeah. Remember when he played for Juve, Zidane called him a complete player. Henry said he could go on to be one of the very best in the world, and I think we all believed him. But at United, it hasn't really kicked on as we thought he might. And maybe it's something down to Mourinho's formation. At Juve, he played at times in a 3-5-2, but probably was most successful in a 4-3-3 under Conte, which looked a bit like this.
Yeah, that's where you kind of got the best out of him, because you had Pirlo and Marchisio behind him in midfield, which allowed Pogba to have that free roaming, because he had two playmakers behind him, one to break up the play and one to create the play, and it allowed him to move on to the final third. Obviously, Conte switched and probably went more towards a 3-5-2, which he's sort of using now really at Chelsea to great effect, and obviously 3-4-3. But when you get Pogba in a midfield trio and you allow him to run forward, that's when you get the most out of him. So far at United, Mourinho's been using him in Mourinho's tactics, which is typically a 4-2-3-1, which he's used at Real Madrid, he's used at Chelsea. He has obviously used the 4-3-3 at the start when he had Damien Duff, those sort of times. But at United so far, has been playing in what you might call a double pivot.
Right.
Let's take the Man City game for example. In the first half, we were literally played off the park. We have Fellaini playing here and Pogba playing alongside him, because he hasn't really learnt this positional discipline that comes as playing part of a midfield 2 instead of a midfield 3. It's a completely different game for a midfielder, especially one who's more attacking rather than defensive, leaves gaps, which obviously Silva, De Bruyne and Fernandinho exploited. And then at different times this season, Mourinho has used different formations, and going into this game against Arsenal we've got coming up next, I'm still not sure what Man United's best midfield is. And I've got an idea on paper, but I've had an idea previously and that didn't really work out, because we've used a midfield 2 in a 4-2-3-1. We've used a midfield 3 in a 4-3-3. And we've seen Pogba play in a left centre midfield.
Okay, so if he isn't suited to this position, why not play him in a 10?
We have played him in the number 10 there before. That was fine all the way. We had Schnarlin and Herrera sitting behind him. And I thought going into that game that was going to be our best midfield on paper. We lost 1-0. So what do I know? That just didn't really work out for him. I think with Pogba in a number 10 role, he doesn't receive the ball in enough space. So you've got instantly the two midfielders are going to close in on the number 10, and depending how aggressive the back line is, they're going to push up as well. So he's not going to have much space to turn and run into, and that's what Pogba needs. So away at Final, we have seen him actually use a number 10 role, but Final we're playing quite aggressive. The midfielders are moving inside on him. The defence was pressing high, and he didn't really have much space on the ball. Once you squeeze the space out of Paul Pogba's game, you take away his assets and you don't really get the most out of him. And then you see Swansea that we just had this weekend. Obviously, Swansea are very, very poor at the moment, but you saw we had Carrick sitting in a deeper role with Fellaini and Pogba as the two midfielders, and that meant that we saw Pogba roaming in this space a lot. Loads of time on the ball, loads of time to move around, and he scored from the edge of the box, and that's...
He was playing in a 10 in that game.
It was more of a midfield 3. Right. So you saw Carrick was basically sitting a little bit deeper, with Fellaini and Pogba were the two in front of him like that. So it wasn't actually a 4-3-3 on paper. But
so it was in his suited position, the one that he's played best with for Juve and
and France as well. And then you saw at Euro 2016 Deschamps, for some strange reason, I think you can attest to this, he chose to use Sissoko in more advanced position in the final instead of Pogba.
I mean, I think it was in order to free up Griezmann and play him in his best position, and Pogba's best position was sacrificed. You can understand that. You know, they got to the final, albeit not playing great football. So Mourinho's been playing the 4-2-3-1 that for the last 5 or 6 years. He used to play the 4-3-3. It doesn't seem like he's going to change. Pogba is going to have to fit into this system. He probably is good enough to adapt. Yeah. But what are we going to see for the rest of the season?
Well, that's what he's doing. He's adapting at the moment. Under Conte, when he was playing in that 4-3-3 or wherever he was playing left centre mid, and he didn't have too much defensive responsibility. He was allowed to roam forward, and that meant he was attacking well, and he didn't have to concentrate defensively. But Mourinho doesn't like that in his players. He likes his players to be able to track back as well. So he wants him to be a box-to-box midfielder, which I think he can be. sort of like a Patrick Vieira in his pomp. He's got all the quality to be as good as Patrick Vieira.
Does he tackle as well as?
Yeah, he does. He does have. He literally has everything in his game, just snippets of it. It's just they're not all completely rounded, and that's what he's doing. He's adapting at the moment. I think United have got to adapt to him. And what we've seen recently is the value of Carrick still to Man United, which I suppose goes to show how bad our recruitment policy has been in central midfield. In that he still holds so much value in this team. When you play Carrick, this is what we found. This is how we've been getting the best out of Pogba recently. Carrick has been playing in a deep line playmaker role, and when he's doing that, Carrick's just such an intelligent footballer. He doesn't really go for the tackle. He gets the interception first.
Yeah.
He's a step ahead of the game. And when you've got a player of that quality behind Pogba, he's got the ability to find players up. He can find Mata here. He can find Martial out here with nice raking passes. Fellaini can't. So when you play Fellaini in this double pivot, Fellaini doesn't have the ability to bring the ball forward. He can win the ball back, but then he'll pass it to Pogba and expect Pogba to bring the ball forward. So
what does Carrick do that Fellaini doesn't? Yeah, and how does that help Pogba?
So he makes the play.
Yeah.
He's playing in a quarterback role. So he has the ability to find these intricate passes that go straight through there, whereas Fellaini, all he can do is pass it short here or pass it back, and ultimately...
So by Carrick playing, Pogba is allowed freedom to move forward and get into more dangerous positions?
It takes the responsibility away from Pogba to make the plays.
Yeah.
It means that Pogba can then receive the ball for the first time in the opposition half. Instead of receiving the ball here, passing to Mata here, and then, which he's more than capable of. But to get the most out of Pogba, you want him to receive the ball for the first time on the halfway line. But United are still learning their best midfield. Mourinho's still learning. And Pogba, as we saw against Swansea, he's capable of wonderful, wonderful moments. And hopefully we can see more of it this season. To get the most out of it, I think you've got to play Carrick and Ander Herrera, who was banned for Swansea.
That's it for Talking Tactics this week. £90 million on Paul Pogba. And so far, we haven't seen the best that we could expect.
We've seen it in moments, but hopefully we'll see it consistently.
Let us know what you think in the comments below, and remember to subscribe to Ball Street.